Welcome back to your favorite Saturday night YouTube comic book channel, Two Brothers Comics, the Saturday Night Comic Book Babylon. No Nick tonight. I've replaced him, but I did make an upgrade. So make sure you guys hit that like button and stay tuned. All right. We got some people hanging out. Guys, start dropping some stuff in the chat. Let me know you're here. Audio's working. Cool. It said I was muted. I don't guess I was though. Like I said, guys, Nick has rolled out to the beach this week like a loser. He knows we have this show every Saturday and he still went to the beach. Like, come on. But it's all good because I was able to link up with a guy that I've been watching for the better part of the last year. And he's definitely become one of my can't miss anything the guy is doing video channel. Can't miss any videos the guy is doing type channels. And we've spoke a little bit here and there, and I was glad to be able to bring him on tonight. We're going to talk everything comics, anything you guys want to talk about, drop suggestions. We're going to talk about market stuff and that kind of thing too. But I want to bring him on. This is Laurence from Mighty Comics and Collectibles. If you don't know who he is, you guys are missing out. Make sure you go check him out. And glad to have you here, Laurence.
Dustin, thank you for having me on the channel, man. I watch you guys religiously. I'm just super stoked to be on this thing, man. I like I said, I watch you guys all the time. So I wish the three of us could be here, me, you, and Nick. But hey, I'm like I said, I'm super happy, super hopeful that happy that you have me on here, man. Thank you.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Like I said, I don't know. I guess your one of your videos were thrown into like a suggested videos from something else I was watching. I clicked on it, and immediately, I was like, "Yep, this guy is definitely someone to be watching." I definitely think and consider you to be um, one of the as far as market stuff goes, very in tuned and trustworthy people. Laurence is not the kind of person that's going to tell you what you should be buying and what you should not be buying. He's going to tell you what he would buy. And then he does it. Like, he'll show you books. He's saying like, this is on the hot list and I wouldn't buy it. I'm not buying it for my collection. Like, the way you word things is something that I think is very well done and can be
Thank
appreciated
you.
by a lot of people for sure.
Thank you for the kind words, man. Listen, when I got onto the YouTube thing, it's because I was watching other guys and gals out there, and I'm like, you know what? I collect comic books. Could I do this? Could I get in front of a camera and talk about comic books? So I just started spitting stuff that what I would do, and that's it. Like
Yeah.
would go to shows, I would buy books, and I said, you know what? This is my thought. And most of the time, I'll be honest with you, I go with my gut, and a lot of the times, I think I'm right about stuff. But hey, I'm not here to preach. I just want to help anyone out there in the community who kind of collects like I collect.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I haven't really had too many that I can think of on the list where you've said, this is one I wouldn't be buying right now, that I'm not going to be purchasing, or this is one I will purchase to put my collection. And I've pretty much been in agreement with you on a lot of them because there's a lot of stuff that pops and you can see it from a mile away that it's just
Yeah,
going to plummet. I mean, if you've been watching it, the market long enough, and you're even a little in tune, a lot of this stuff you can see coming from a mile away, and
absolutely.
it's there are a few out there that will surprise you every now and then, but a lot of times when you get that first Robin King book that's going for $250 on day
Yeah.
one, I saw it a mile away. The week it came out, Nick and I talked about it that weekend on the Babylon. I said this book is going to be worthless soon, and I think you can get a 9.8 of that virgin copy for less than $100 or right around it now. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things where there's a lot of channels that do what you do, and there's a lot of them with some bad information out there. So when you can find someone who's giving good information and good advice, that's definitely someone you want to hold on to and hit that notification bell on for sure.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. I will throw in this, like, whenever like I go to like look up prices of books, whenever I go to look like what's selling, what's not selling, you have to look for hard information, right? The best tool that I have that I use is GPA, but I'm also going to throw in eBay last sales. And I know GPA tracks that, but I actually go into eBay
Mhm.
and look at the last sales just to see, like, you know what, there are some dummy sales in there a couple of times. You'll see exactly if something was a best offer accepted, if something was,
Mhm.
just buy it now. Like, that's a great tool to have, especially if you're going out looking for a specific book. And that's what I do a lot of the times is go out looking for a set of books that I know I'm always looking for. I actually just did a video maybe a couple of weeks back that whenever I go to con, whenever I go to show, whenever I go to my LCS, is always like a set of books I always have the back of my mind. So
Mhm.
um, it's just a great tool to have if you're not using that type of thing. It gives a lot of information.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I honestly, wasn't using I would use Go Collect when it was free every now and then, but I never took full advantage of it as much as I really should have, and I was using, what's the other one?
This Key Collector, Go Collect, GPA.
There's
There is
another
another
one
one.
like GPA, and I can't think of the name of it, but I was actually paying for that one. And once Nick actually got a GPA account, and I just log in on his. But, once I got into GPA, I was like, "Man"
Cover
Cover
price.
Price,
There you go.
yeah. Yeah, once I got into GPA, I was like, "Man, I like this a whole lot better than Cover Price," because, you can go so in depth on GPA with looking, and it'll tell you sales on 9/8 and it'll say, UKA price variant, or there was
Yeah.
one that sold really low, and then it'll have in the GPA cracked case. It'll tell you
Yeah.
stuff like that that you're not going to get on that I wasn't able to find on cover price or anything.
It's
You can
They was
go
gonna say
ahead.
they also say like incomplete stuff, like you said, UK
Hmm.
variants. Like it breaks it down, and it's also very simple to use. So
Oh
the
yeah.
only issue I've had with GPA is when you're looking for like an obscure title. What was it that I was trying to search the other day? And like for the life of me, it was Adventure into Fear. I could not find it for the life of me. And then somebody mentioned in the video that it's under a different name for some reason. So that's the only issue I've had with GPA. Other than that, I think it's been great.
Yeah, and I have that issue sometimes when I'm looking books up on the census for CGC, trying to
Yes.
get the wording right, and sometimes you have to hit exact match, sometimes you have to hit starts with, and but that's another cool thing that GPA allows you to do is you can actually go straight from their site and check the census on the book that you're looking at the current prices on too. So I thought that was something really cool, and as well as live sales on eBay. So GPA to me definitely after really getting into it is my absolute favorite thing to use because sometimes you'll see like an outlier that sold for like super low. And if you just go to a Go Collect or a Cover Price and look, you're not going to see that, oh, well, it was a cracked case or
Yeah.
that there was something going on with it. And I like that about GPA for sure.
The one thing I think it doesn't track is Comic Link auctions and Comic Link sales. So that's if you
Ah,
ever if y- so that it doesn't cover that. So if you have a Comic Link account and you go search, you could always just look on it because Comic Link keeps their stuff up there for a while. Once something sells, so you can go on and just check it out as like an additional thing. If you like GPA and you add that to it, and then you go check out eBay, last sales actually in the app, I think you're
mm-hmm.
covered.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'll definitely keep that in mind. And that was something I've always been curious about with the lists that always come out because you to my knowledge, I've never heard anyone come out and say, uh, these are the top 10 hottest books based on sales data from this platform or that platform. Because I remember specifically last year, Marvel Spotlight number 6 in like a 9.2 supposedly had a sale of like 1,800 bucks. It made the hot list. And I went to eBay immediately looking because I was like, well, dang, I know I have a raw copy that is at least a 9.2. And I went to eBay, I couldn't find it. And I
Yeah,
was like, "Well, where did this sell?" And that was something that's always at that point, I really started thinking about it. I'm like, "Did it sell in an auction house? It didn't sell, was it a sell on eBay that wasn't real and now they deleted it or canceled the sale or something?" Because that's another thing, that I would be curious to know too, like canceled sales, and how those affect GPA, if that's something, because how long you have, what, 30 days to cancel an eBay sale?
Yeah, I don't know how exactly that works out, be honest with you. If it appears on how long it takes from eBay sale to get on GPA, then if something is pulled, does it how does it come off? I don't know if it does, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I do not know how that works, so I can't really speak to that, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be I think it would definitely be beneficial for everybody to know from and we're not just I'm not just talking about the Tom list. I mean, there's plenty of people that do top 10 lists, but to have that transparency of like this is where the
The
data is
numbers come
pulled
from.
from.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be something that would be really good to know because
I
it would help
know
everybody.
I know on the Key Collector app, the one that Tom does and the one that I do, they also use like personal transactions. So I've heard Tom talk about that they confirmed a sale through a personal transaction. So it's not
Uh,
always like it. I don't know how often it happens, but
okay.
there are certain books that make that list because of they find out, yeah, it happened, it sold. So
And, you know, in all honesty, that still should count. Um, it's just one of those things that it's for the general public, it's hard for everybody to go and see. So it
it's hard to
starts to
trust too.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I mean, because who knows how many times at a Comic Con books sell for 10% over what it's currently going for on GPA. Or, I know I've struck some deals with comic shops and at Comic Cons where I'm getting books, 40% under or better. And I would kill GPA if ever if the deals that I struck were hitting that. That's for sure.
Exactly. Well, at least you're still getting deals. I'm finding it so hard to get good deals right now. Every time that I go to shows or a con, not so much my LCS because I'm lucky that in my area I have a couple LCSs that really help me out. But like some of the books that I'm seeing are still priced a little high because the market's still coming in. Not every book has bottomed. I think a lot has,
Yeah.
but there are still that are some that are coming down, and the prices that are reflected are not those prices yet. So what I like to do is I like to go and check the last sale on GPA, and I'm going to compare it to the 90-day average. I even go back as far as like the 12-month rolling average just to kind of see the
Hmm.
drop that things have had. But I always want to be under that last sale, and depending where the 90-day is, I may want to be far under that last sale if I need to be.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And a lot of that's gonna for me personally is gonna depend on if it's something that I'm buying to keep in my collection, or am I buying this so I can crack it, work on the book, send it in, and get that grade bump. Um, if I can look at the book and tell, like, there's no doubt that I can bump this, 2 grades because it's just looks like it got folded and crumbled up and it's never been pressed. Like, that's a gimme. I can buy it for what you're asking for it, but if it's something that I got to take a chance on and I know that that's my intentions, then yeah, I'm right there. You got to get it, got to try to get it below that 90-day average for sure. Just in case it doesn't bump, at least you can get your money right back out of it.
Absolutely. And I think of it this way. I know, dealers or sellers, they got to make money. It's their livelihood, but they got to sell books, right? We're
Hmm.
collectors. We're spending the money. They have to move books. So I'm not going to go insult someone with a price, but they should be, you know what? I got to start moving books. Let's sell some stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I kind of noticed the same thing at cons too. I've been to a few cons this year, and I've noticed the same thing outside of a couple of vendors that I've become friends with just from seeing at one con after another, same guys, and gotten really friendly with. And of course, they cut us deals because we spend a lot of money with them every time, regardless. But there are a lot of vendors. The most recent one I went to was Heroes Comic Con, which after going there, I've said a million times, like there is nothing that will ever live up to that as far as a pure comic book convention. That is the absolute mecca in my book right now. But there was a lot of books that I was looking at the price and I was like, wow, you that's way up, man, from
Yeah.
what it's actually going for. And it's like, yeah, those 2020 prices are not still the rolling average, brother. So
Yeah.
you want to make that deal, you want to come off and we can make a deal and you make some money, or you load all this stuff back up. And that's kind of how you have to talk to them sometimes.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, you can load all these back up, or you can make a deal and we can move some of this stuff.
Yeah,
So
like you said, like there's a couple of dealers out there that they know you, so like they're willing to work more. And I always go back to those dealers just because of
mhm.
that. So I mean, they know that as well. The good dealers know, hey, he bought a lot of stuff from me. He spends money here. If I give him a better deal, he's going to come back the next time looking for, for a book that if I have that he may want.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's scratch your back and I scratch yours kind of thing. If I see a dealer at a con and I see a bunch of stuff that they have that I really want, and if some of it's like on the more expensive side, I'll try to find, a couple $100 worth. Like if I'm looking at a book for $1,000 that I know I want to grab, I'll find a few $100 books and I'll pay him cash what he's asking for right then. Won't try to bargain at all. And I'll come back later and maybe I'll buy something else for full price. And then, if it's still there on the last day, I'll come in there and by this point he knows my face. I've purchased with him multiple times for full price with cash. Now I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna cut your throat because now
Yeah.
now I'm gonna look for that deal. I got cash. It's the last day. This book's been sitting here. I'm the only one that has shown interest in it, obviously. So let's work a deal. And a lot of times that pays off. And I get stuff. The stuff that I buy beforehand is stuff that I like that stuff too, and it's good stuff. But my main goal is still that one on the wall, and
Yeah.
and it's just a process of working towards it. And it almost sounds like a scheme, but I mean,
It's a it's a plan, man. You
yeah,
go in with a plan. That's how you got
you
to
got it.
be.
Yeah, and I say this all the time, and I can confirm it because I've over the past few months started uh, pressing and cleaning books and getting them graded and selling them myself, and I've said this many times, and nobody's gonna these dealers or the comic shops, they're not gonna say yes to a price if they're not still making money.
Yeah.
And Nick is the king of uh, feeling horrible for asking them to take 10% off of a book. He feels so bad about it, and then he'll sit and watch me just go on 10 minutes dealing back and forth with these guys. And he's like, you're so horrible. I'm like, no, man. I'm like, that's the game, dude. I was like, they ain't gonna sell me the book at a price they're not okay with or comfortable with. And I know that, they know that. So they're if they give me a deal, then whatever that deal is, they're still making something for sure. Especially if it's a book like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures.
Yeah.
Um, you know, that book was in everybody's long boxes for
Yep.
years, and then it pops all of a sudden.
And then it
It
dropped. Now it's
yeah.
like nothing again.
Oh my gosh, did it drop? But
Forget. Finish your show.
that's just an example of a book where you walk into a con after it pops and it's on the wall, and now it's $500, and it's like, okay, it's $500, but in a 9.8, it's going for this much. So if I can get it for $300, 350, I know he's making a killing off of it because he's probably got $25 in the book because that's what it was
Yeah.
going for 6 months ago. And they're still gonna make a crap load of money, and I'm gonna get a good deal. So
One of us, gobble, gobble, one of
Absolutely.
us. We
Absolutely.
accept that one of us. Gobble, gobble, one of us. We accept that one of us. Gobble, gobble.
all right, we are. You know what? I almost forgot you guys were here. I almost forgot you guys were here. The chat has spoken. Let's see what these guys are saying. But yeah, you actually ventured into something I want to talk about next, and that's books that went and then just crashed, man. So let's see. Dan says Laurence is one of the smartest in the hobby. I agree for sure, 100%. Black
Thanks,
Swamp
Dan.
Comics, what's going on? Chris Barrett, why are you never the special guest? I think you know why. What's up, Bleeker? Another guy that I know is really active in the comic market. Good to see you, man. Let's see who else we got. If you believe Key Collector, every book is on the hot list. Sometimes it seems that way. Sometimes it
It
does seem
does.
that way.
It does, man.
What's up, Ryan? Good to see you, man. Robert, what's up? CLZ. CLZ is a great app. I love CLZ. We could talk about that too. Justin Birch. Hey, well, Nick's not here. So I was like, well, if Nick's not going to be here, you're on Eastern Standard Time too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
am.
I was like, I don't want to start at 9:30 my time, just if I don't have to. I mean, get it
I'm
in
with
here
you.
a little earlier. Let's see who else we got hanging out. Trinity, what's up, brother? Hope you're doing well. Nick's hanging out talking about eating shrimp and crab legs. Let's see. Best course says everyone missed the memo. We're in a recession. Yeah, it's everything's not crazy though, and we're gonna talk about it. There's been a lot of stuff that's had some drops that I never would have expected to drop.
I will say this, like, and I know we'll keep going in the chat, but like what I'm noticing, the first thing that I'm noticing is the interest is slowing down. A lot of the interest in comics, like there was
Mhm.
such feverish, a pulse going maybe about a year and a half ago. When I go to shows now, there is literally a quarter of the people that were there, a year and a half ago.
Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely see that in multiple areas of the hobby, and that's definitely a conversation to touch on too. We might be here for 4 or 5 hours, guys, because I mean, like I said, both of us have been excited for this show. We've been looking forward to hanging out and talking. So, and
Absolutely.
this is the guy that I want to have these conversations with. So, Empire, what's up, brother? Hope you're doing well. Blake says just picked up a 129 for 3,200 and Stanley signature. What grade was it? That is the
Yeah,
key there.
absolutely. I was thinking the same thing when I saw that comment. Oh, it depends on the grade. It's that book is starting to come down now too. It was
Mhm.
was holding for a bit. Now it's starting to drop.
Yep. Best Course says the other problem with LCS dealers with loads of inventory that don't have time to reprice everything. That's right, and sometimes that works to your advantage because um, you find stuff that hasn't been marked up, so you're able to get the deal there. But if you find stuff that's priced too high, again, go talk to them, man. Go talk to them because if they've got that, a lot of times that backstock stuff sitting in those boxes, they just want to move it. So
Absolutely.
that's the biggest thing. They just want to move it. It doesn't matter if they give you 20%, 25% off of it because they know and it probably came out of a collection that they had some bigger books in it that they've already sold that made all their money plus a little bit on. So everything else is just icing on the cake at that point. So don't be afraid to go talk to them. Do not be
Plus, like
afraid to talk to
a
them.
lot a lot of LCSs or dealers, they'll price stuff a little high, so they'll discount more to make you think that you're getting a good
Yeah.
deal.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, and that's a good strategy on their part too. I'm gonna price this high, and then you come in and think I'm giving you the wiggle room, and I'm still making money off of you, but you feel
Yeah.
good, I feel good, and that's the biggest thing. Like as long as everybody walks away happy, I mean, who cares how much they made, as long as you got a good deal and you're happy with it, you're happy with the book, then that's the goal. 8.5 on the 129.
So that's a good thing because I just saw it listed on Instagram literally before I came on the show. It was an 8.5 for 3,000, not signed by Stan Lee. So you paid 3,200 for a Stan Lee sig. So you paid $200 for a Stan Lee sig. I would take that all day. And
Yeah.
that's real time right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So good pickup, man. Good pickup. Adam, what's up, dude? What you doing hanging out? You Saturday night, dude. I know you ain't out riding on the bike, man. I know I miss it. Let's thankfully gas prices are down for the moment. For the moment.
Ditto.
We'll see how long that lasts. Probably sometime after November.
You're right. And I think that things are going to come down more, especially with I think there's I don't want to get to a stock conversation here, but I think we're gonna get a little bump higher and then it's gonna go down a lot more. That's just an opinion, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, and that's been something that's kind of put me in a bit of a pickle because about 4 or 5 months ago, I met some guys that at a Comic-Con out in Huntsville that I found out live really close to me, and I've just been hanging out with these guys. They become great friends. Well, one of them, his name's Jeff. He really just kind of took me under his wing and helped me with getting started on pressing and cleaning, and worked with me on that until I was comfortable with it and being able to get some really good results out of it. And I had told my wife, I was like, there's a lot I can do with this to make money, and if it goes well enough, eventually that could be what I do for a living instead of getting up at 4:30 in the morning to go work a construction job. And so I started buying books that I knew if I hit a 9.8 on them, modern stuff anyway, that if I bought it for $40 in a 9.8, it's going for $350. That's a win all day long. So I started picking this kind of stuff up, getting them graded, and fast track CGC is going really quick right now. And it started out going really well, being able to do that. And my goal was to build up a fund big enough to start buying books like Tales of Suspense 39 that I could crack, press clean, and get, instead of getting a couple $100, get thousands of dollars for grade bumps. And I've really had to kind of backtrack on that right now, because prices keep going down on stuff, and I've got a bunch of stuff that's just been kind of sitting here that I can't drop the prices on when I do a live sale with on YouTube. I'll have it up for a price that I'm like, all right, cool, like this is lower than last sale or whatever. And then come to find out, nope, today there was a couple more that sold for less than that. And like that
Yeah.
kind of stuff's been killing me as a seller for sure. So, um,
It's a tough time right now. I
yeah.
to be a seller, it really is like I tell people all the time on my channel, like if you're gonna go out there and buy something now, make sure you're holding on to it for years at this point because at one point the market was going nuts. You could buy something one week, make a few
Hmm.
hundred the next week, and it's not like that anymore. If you buy,
Yeah.
you gotta hold. With the
Hmm.
modern stuff, like what you're doing with the pressing, you may be able to get away with it still. Especially if you get a good deal on a modern book and then press it comes back at 9.8, you're still all right. But with some of the older stuff, as prices come down, it's rough.
Yeah. 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 And honestly, I think modern has taken the biggest hit this year from what I've seen. All the way up to looking at Edge of Spider Verse and Ultimate Fallout 4. I saw on Elite Comics 11 on Instagram, someone
I
was
saw that
selling
too today.
a
I saw it
9.8
too today.
and a 9.6 for the price of a 9.8 first
Yeah.
prints, and I was just like, wow. I sold my 9.6 Ultimate Fallout 4 first print. When I got it back, a 9.6 was going for like 1,100, 1,200 bucks. By the time I actually got somebody to buy it, I had to keep dropping the prices to keep up with the current market,
Yeah.
and 850. I mean,
Yeah.
over a few weeks, and Edge of Spider Verse, that one I had in a 9.4, which was going for around 800 bucks when I got it back, and I ended up getting like 600 for that one because it kept dropping. But I think we've seen a lot of the the whole anything modern in a 9.8, doesn't matter what it is a guaranteed $150 book. uh the facsimiles, you look at the Ultimate Fallout 4 facsimiles, those have gone from like being $80-$90 books. I've seen them selling for $30 and $40 for 9.8s on eBay.
And that's, I'll be honest, it's a $5 reprint, and someone's getting it graded, coming back at 9.8. I mean, what does it cost to grade a modern, fast track book? What does it cost? I don't know because I don't do too many of those. What does it cost?
So it's $15 for the fast track on top of your 20 whatever. So just say 35 bucks, 30 35 36 bucks or something. So yeah, I mean
The-
you're right there at it.
Yeah. So
So
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's
so
crazy right now the way it is.
yeah, yeah. And honestly, I think it's still a good thing though, because there was so much that had taken off and gotten so high for just crazy reason. And you look at some of this stuff, like we were talking earlier, like this is a good one right here. And I'm a fan of this franchise. But when this book right here started reaching 650 and $700 in a 9.8, I was the first one to say, y'all are crazy. Every one of you who are paying that for this book is crazy. And I bought this raw a couple years ago. I got it graded recently, hit the 9.8, but uh I was just like, that went from being $120 9.8 to like 650, seven hundred
Yeah.
dollars in like that. I was like, you guys are crazy for paying that for that book, because number one, it's not hard to find. I mean, you can walk into a comic convention most time and find 3 or 4 pretty quickly, and there
You,
was
you
just a
know,
lot of that.
when I knew when Ultimate Fallout 4, the first print 9.8 went over 4 grand for a sale. That's when I knew, you know what? It's too much right now. I was like, that book should
Yeah.
not be $4,000 in a 90 right now.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. And I had that conversation with Justin Birch on here before we went to Lexington Comic Con this year. It was not too long after the end of the Spider-Verse trailer came out, and the book had peaked, excuse me, back up to like 3 grand in a 9.8. And he was dead set on had to buy one right now because he was worried it was going to keep going up. And I told him, I said, do not, for the love of God, buy that book right now for a 9.8 prices. I was like, give it 3 or 4 months, dude. I said, I promise you that book will be back down to at least a few $100s cheaper. I was like, do not buy the 9.8 for $3,000 right now. And I mean, now you can get. I've seen them selling on different places on Instagram. If you're tuned in on there to the sales pages, dude, you can get some deals, guys. I've seen 9.8 selling on there for 2,200, 2,300 bucks all day long.
If you are not on Instagram and you're not into, all the people out there who are selling comics, I sell comics on Instagram and I'm just a collector. The deals you can have, and it started back in when coronavirus hit in 2020, like people doing live shows like Elite 11. Now there's so many other accounts doing it for
Hmm.
business purposes, but there's also individual collectors who are willing to sell books at good prices. That's 9
Hmm.
times out of 10. That's where I buy books right now is Instagram. And that's where I sell books as well. I just sold a Hulk 181 to one of my followers that I talk to all the time. Like, this is the best place to buy books right now. As long as
Yeah.
they're a reputable seller, reputable collector, that's the place to do it. Forget eBay and other places. That's it. Cons, it can be overpriced. If you're selling to other people, they're always going to give you a better deal.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And crap, like I even and if eBay police are watching, they'll probably get me for it. But I mean, I'll shoot somebody a message on eBay and say, "Hey, you got an Instagram?" And as a seller, last week, my Age of Spider-Verse #2, 9.4, it was purchased for 600 bucks, and I realized, wait a second, I know this guy from Instagram, and he has a YouTube channel, and I had already accepted the sale before I realized it. And then when I realized that, I hit him on Instagram. I was like, "Hey, look, uh, would you mind if I cancel this sale and we work this deal outside of eBay?" And I threw him an extra slab. He got free shipping. He didn't have to pay taxes, and I didn't have to pay the seller fees. And a lot of times, if you message somebody on eBay, and you have to be kind of sneaky about it. Sometimes what I'll do, I've got a note, a Galaxy Note, so I'll just write a message on the note, screenshot it, and send them a picture that says, "Hey, this is my phone number. Shoot me a text. I'd like to talk about the book." And some people don't like that, but I mean,
Yeah. I do
as
the
a
same thing.
seller, yeah, and because as a seller and a buyer, it works out for both of you. The buyer doesn't
Absolutely.
have to pay taxes, and the seller doesn't have to pay the seller fees. So I mean, it works out for both way 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 better. So
The only thing is that I run into across some people. "Well, how do I trust you? How do I know you?" So I
yeah,
said, I get like I have a YouTube channel, I have a
yep,
website, I have whatever. Like I have 100% feedback on eBay. I'm like, this is me. Like you're gonna get a better deal.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I had someone that I had sent a message to him. That was they had made an offer on a book that I was selling on eBay, and I sent them a message. I was like, "Hey," I was like, if you'll send me a text message, I can give you a lower deal than what you just sent me. And it'll, we don't have to do the eBay fees and all that." And he was like, "Ah, this sounds kind of fishy." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Look," I was like, "this is who I am. I have this YouTube channel, Instagram. It's like there's no way I can hide from you. I am out there. So if you want to check on all that and make sure that I'm legit," I was like, you can go check my stuff. I'll FaceTime you so you can see it's me. Whatever you want to do. But yeah, it does definitely benefit us having platforms that people can use,
Yes.
kind of like a
Secu-
having.
Security check.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much, yeah. So, if this guy tries to screw me over, then, everybody's gonna know about it,
Mhm.
so it definitely works out. But that's definitely, if that's not something that, you're doing as an eBay buyer or seller, I mean, it doesn't hurt anything to try and see,
Yeah.
because I mean, it helps you out both ways, so,
Good
um
advice.
So let's talk about some books that you've noticed that skyrocketed, kind of like that Turtles Adventures we talked about, which honestly we could kind of throw all of the Turtles books in there. In that, I mean, everything Turtles went to the moon and came back down quick.
We could throw in everything from that like late 80s, 90s era. Remember Voltron 1, the
Yeah.
Transformers 1, they all
Yep.
shot to the moon and then they
Star
dropped.
Wars.
Star Wars
Every
1 went nuts, came back
Yeah.
down.
The 42, isn't that the first Boba Fett?
Boba Fett. Yep.
I think that book's died pretty hard too. Yeah, it's and I've said I say it all the time, you know, if everybody's talking about it, then you don't want to be buying it. I mean,
Hmm.
it's and for a long for a while there, you could see it happening where you had these waves where you had turtles, everything turtles. It didn't matter if it was a key, if it was rare, it didn't matter. You could show up on an auction with a box of turtles and you're going to move them all because turtles is on
Yeah.
fire. That died down. We jumped into Star Wars. Everything Star Wars was going to the moon. That fades out. Then, like you say, you jump into Voltron and Transformers. And I haven't really seen that again in a while where we've had this, you know, fad type deal where everybody's so focused on one thing right now, and I think that has definitely had something to do with the current comic market too, because there's not that one thing everybody's looking for and trying to move or trying to grab because this is what's the popular thing right now. It's on my mind, and the more you see it, the more you're like, man, I do like that, and
Yep.
sometimes that gets you too. But I haven't noticed that recently. Have you?
No, and I think part of it has to do with the mindset where everyone is right now. 2 years ago, or even a year and a half ago, people were like, they were home. Most people were working from home at that point, on live sales, FOMO. It all played in. Now it's like people have returned to work. They've returned to their regular lives. Fortunately, the economy isn't the way it was, isn't where it was back then. So I think that all plays a part into it. But what I'm noticing is that people have gone on to other things. They're not like rabid about collecting these things anymore as they were, as opposed to a year and a half ago. But
Yeah,
the tried and true collectors are still here. We're still collecting, and I think the people who collect a certain type of books, those are the people who are getting rewarded. Whereas the people who are going out there and buying these FOMO things, even though every book you just mentioned, Voltron, Transformers, Star Wars, what is the other one we just said? The other one,
turtles.
it's Turtles. Like, it's all stuff I grew up with, it's all stuff I want, but there's a price that you want to pay for it, and there's a price that I wouldn't. So
Yeah.
it's just the way the market was to where the market is now. You're in a downtrend where people have kind of moved on to other things because there's more things going on in our lives. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's something I hear you say all the time, you know, do I want this in my collection? Yes, but at this price, no.
No,
And
yeah,
it goes back to what I said, like, you know, if it's on that hot list, then you've already missed the train. The train's already been boarded and left the station and they're waving at you from the back. But if it's something that's, you know, out there and it's mainstream now and everyone's talking about it, that is 9 times out of 10 the worst time to buy.
yeah,
Sometimes, yes, there are times where we'll see that book that'll continue to climb, but Venom 300 9.8s were selling for $1,000 a couple of years ago, and I think they're back down to like $300 now. I mean,
it, everything is timing. Even when I got back into collecting like 5 years ago, I jumped in at like the perfect time to get back in. Now that everything's come back down, there's so many people like stuck up here. They're trapped and they're putting everything on sale, and they're just trying to unload everything, flooding the market with all these books, and it's dropping the price of all of them.
mhm,
Um, Now's the time, to be honest, as prices come down for the books you want to keep in your collection longer term, you should be buying. Like, this is the time to buy if you don't have some of the books you want, because especially the bigger books, I'm not saying you have to go out there and get like a major grail, like a Tales of Suspense 39, even though if you could do it, you should.
yeah,
But like the other, like the next high, the second higher tier books from, like, 100, couple $100 type of books, like the $500,000 books, even to a couple
mhm,
$1,000 books. Those are the books that I think everybody should be after right now, because if you're willing to hold them longer term, they've come down so much where they may turn in 25 years down the road to that six, seven, $8,000 book that, hey, timing is good. I got it at the right time. Now I can
mhm.
unload it 20 years later.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that I think people who have the money that they can buy in that 25, 30,000 tier and up, those people are salivating right now because it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what happens to the economy. If you got that kind of money to blow on comic books, you're not going to be affected anyway. You're not worried about it, but they're salivating right now when this stuff's dropping because they're like, dude, like, you know, this book's $25,000 now. It was $40,000
Yeah.
2 years ago. I'm jumping on it right now.
Look at
And
AF-15.
yeah,
AF-15 being the best, probably the biggest girl there is outside of Action 1 and Detective Comics 27, which 99% of the population is not owning those 2 books.
yeah,
But where it was, I think like a 7.0 was like at the highest, like $195,000. It's, I think one sold for like $100,000 or close to it. So you're talking about like a 50% haircut. That's a
yeah,
lot of money.
yeah. Yeah. And people look at it and say, like, "Oh my gosh, that book just sold for that much." And it's like, yeah, but you got to look at it from the guy who's buying its perspective, where
Yeah.
he's had this money and he's, if they're spending that much on this book, I would have to believe, I like to believe in my heart that it's because they are a lifelong fan. They've always wanted this book and they've just been waiting for the time to pounce on it. And I'm like, man, like that's awesome. I don't even know who you are, but I'm so happy for you that you were able to grab that book at such a great price compared to where it was. And then you look at the people who bought it when it was priced so high a couple years ago or a year ago, and you're like, I feel bad for those people sometimes, man, because I know I've been in it a little bit too. The year before last, or it might have been last summer. It was either last summer or the year before. My wife and I were talking because a friend of mine, JB Discovery Bay Comics, had done a video where he was talking about his wife and him were looking at putting like 10 grand in the stock market. And they decided instead of doing that, we're going to put it into the comic book market. And so we were watching the video, and I was letting her watch it while I was listening to it. We were driving back home from Huntsville, and so the rest of the ride, she's talking to me and she's asking, "Does this really work? Is our comic books really worth investing in this much that this guy's going to be able to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, for sure." She's like, "Well, is it something you think you could do?" I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Well, you guys just don't talk about it." I was like, "Well, that doesn't mean I don't understand it and know about it." I said, "It's just not what we talk about." I said, "But yes, that's like I know, which books I would purchase and at what price ranges." I said, "Right now there's 3 books that because this was like right at the beginning of the big spike of 2020
Yeah.
or 2021. I told her, I said, I know of a few, I know 3 books that I would definitely put the money into right now. And I said, Giant Size X-Men #1, Hulk 181. And at the time I said Ultimate Fallout 4. And because she was looking at spending like $2,500. So I told her, I was like, those 3, for the price range we're looking at, is like, I think those 3 would be good because I said, after everything finally peaks, I told her, I said, it's gonna come crashing a little bit. It might not hit the ground. I said, but it's gonna definitely take a bit of a turn. I said, those 3 books I think can really be able to bypass that and continue to stay here or at least just barely move. And so we ended up settling on a Hulk 181 and a 2.5. And I thought I got a great deal on it. I paid like $2,100 on eBay for it. And
I think that's a good deal. Off
yeah,
the top of my head. Off the top of my head.
yeah, and in about 3 or 4 weeks, that book had jumped up to like a $3,000 book. And at that time, this was a book we were going to hold on to and have a long term investment in, and waiting for that Wolverine announcement. And so I was like, well, I was like, we could make some now. I said I'd be pissed off at myself if I sold it now to make 600 or 700 bucks, and then a couple years from now it jumps up and I could have made a couple grand or whatever. And now right now, as we stand here, I've seen 3.5 Stanley Signature Series copies of that book selling for like 2,400 bucks.
Wow.
And, that is Nick and I did a video about what was going on a couple years ago, and books that we thought would definitely come sailing down in prices, and books that we thought would be able to withstand price correction. And Hulk 181 was on both of our lists, Giant Size was on both of our lists, and neither one of those from what I've seen have stayed. I mean, 25 to 40% drops on both of them.
Yeah. The first thing that I think about when I think about this book is, one, they're Bronze Age books, so the print run is higher.
Yeah.
The worst thing that happened was that Hulk 181, if you went to eBay, Literally,
Yeah.
you could probably find 250 for sale, not in that grade, but
Yeah.
in all grade.
Yeah. Pick your
So
grade.
when that happens, it just drops the price of everything. I
Yeah.
I just said before I came on your show today, I listed a Hulk 181 4.0 off white to white pages. The last sale was 3,700, so that's what I listed it for, and literally the same day it sold. So, but the high of that book in a 4.0 was 90 days ago was $4,500. So you're talking about
Yeah.
an $800 drop
Yeah.
in 90 days. That's a lot of
Hmm.
money.
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely. Especially in such a short period of time. Yeah, it's definitely crazy. And so, but it's one of those books too, like, that one has the legs to make the turnaround. All it takes
of
is a little
course.
bit of news. But the big thing you said there was, you once it started really jumping, people that had copies that they had for 5 years, 3 years, even a year at that point, again, they're salivating at the opportunity of being able to make that money on them. So the market gets flooded. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen with Ultimate Fallout 4, because I know
Yeah.
multiple people who have short boxes full of that book.
Wow.
And as many copies that are out there right now, I don't think we've even seen close to what the actual market will look like on that when he shows up. Because I think a lot of people are just waiting for
Yeah.
the Miles live action. But yeah, I mean, when you have that huge flood of books come in, because a lot of people are just waiting, and once it gets hot, even if it's a book you say is not going anywhere ever, it's staying in my collection. Um, it's hard to say no when you see I mean, I got like this book here, I've got, including grading fees, I've got like $60 in this book total. And if I had
What
this 9.8 2 years ago when it was going for $700, I would have felt pretty silly if I didn't at least take a shot at it. I mean,
so what is that book going for right now?
um, I'm
Roughly,
gonna,
roughly.
I think it's probably back down around like $200.
So think about it. You're making over 200% on your money. That's a good deal, even if you were to sell it now. And the way I look at it is, if can I get that book back at the same grade for cheaper down the line, or is it going to
Yeah,
be more money or the same?
yeah,
The interesting thing that you brought up before about Hulk 181 is the reason why I just sold my other copy is because I was doing the same thing. I'm waiting for the Wolverine casting, the Wolverine announcement, and then I was going to let one of my copies go. But the more I got to thinking about it was this: is like, am I going to be able to go out at some point and buy that book again? Yeah,
yeah,
there's so many copies out there. I can just, if I were to sell it now, I can go out and buy another copy when the next dip occurs. So to me, it was like, you know what? It's not like a super scarce book and go out and buy one. It's going to come back eventually back down to a certain price that I feel comfortable buying it again. So I was okay letting it go. I'm going to upset some people when I say this, but if you were going to go out there, and most people would say, out of the three books you mentioned, Ultimate Fallout 4, Giant Size X-Men 1, or Hulk 181, what would most people want? They'd probably want the Hulk 181, right? That's the most popular character. It's
hmm,
first appearance of Wolverine. I'm going to tell you why Giant Size X-Men 1 is the better buy. One, it's harder to find that book in a nicer grade. It's a
yeah,
square bound book. It's a white cover. It is still the second appearance of Wolverine, and it's the first, obviously, new X-Men team. It is harder to find that book in nicer condition. So to me, that's a book I'd rather own over Hulk 181. Now, I do love Hulk 181. I'm not going to say I don't. I do. But for an investment purposes only, that book is harder to find. Giant Says X-Men 1.
yeah. I would agree for sure. The reason I went with 181, and this is what I told my wife when we were deciding, I was like, look, I think 181 and giant size are going to be a better option of being able to increase more than the Ultimate Fallout 4. I said, however, if I buy the giant size X-Men, I'm not going to want to let that one go.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, I would have no problems letting the 181 go. I like Wolverine, but he's not really my guy. So I was like, that book it's not something that would kill me to let it go. And so yeah, that is actually exactly what I was using in my reasoning for buying that book at the time I did, is just because I was like, if I had the giant size, it would kill me to let it go, because that was a book that uh, and still is a book that I definitely want to have in the collection, but I want to get it for a price that I'm good with, and I'm gonna that's a keeper for me for sure.
I think it's come down enough where I bought a raw copy and had it graded. It came back as 7.0. I think it's come down about 25% on the grade on mine. So I still think that's a really good price if you can get a nice copy. I think that's 25% off what it was. I think is a good deal.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, crap, even X-Men 1 has dropped a bunch, and I know Justin, he's got a 1.8, and that book had gotten like right at the cusp of like 10 grand at one point, and now it's like way back down around like in the sevens. And which is still like he paid like around like 2600 bucks for it, I think. So he's still like way up on that book. Not that
That's
he'll ever sell it, but
that's a amazing deal.
yeah. Yeah, and what sucks, and I know a lot of people have heard me say it before. Um, it was actually at one of my local shops here, and I was making a deal with the shop owner to make payments on it, and I was going to purchase it, but Justin was trying to finish up putting his X-Men run together, which he finally finished. He has every Uncanny X-Men Volume 1, annuals, everything. But he needed a number 1. So I was trying to be a good friend. And I said, well, let me ask Justin if he wants to get it before I make the purchase. And he ended up getting it. And I was like, I'll grab another one at some point because that was one I really wanted to. And I mean, it wasn't long after that, maybe like 6-8 months after that, it just popped hard. And I was just like, man, I was like, well, I'm glad you got it. I said, because I definitely would be selling it right now to make $7,500 on it. Like
Yeah,
like, it would be so hard not to. I'd feel
it's
irresponsible to my family if I didn't.
it's tough. It's tough when you get like a deal like that and then it goes up 400%. It's like, you know what? I kind of got to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially if you know that that money could help your family out, or be a positive thing for your family, and yeah, it would just I would just be like, nah, it'd be irresponsible for me not to do it. But yeah, that those are books that I thought would have been able to hold a lot stronger than they have. Um, but I mean, it's wild. And another thing we could talk about. Oh, and I'd looked this up. These are actually in June and July. There's been sales of like $130 for this in a 9.8. So that is right back to where it was pre blow up prices. So that's good to see that it's corrected back to right around where where I personally think that it should be. And if I was going to buy a copy, that's about where I would want to be on it.
Yeah.
Definitely not 500-600 bucks. I just could not believe that. But have you noticed? And I've talked about it with a couple of people, and I've had different reviews or responses. Have you noticed a difference in what the Marvel news is doing to books now versus before? Where um, Submariner, for instance, I didn't really see a huge spike in the Submariner stuff. It just kind of continued to keep tailing down a little bit, like everything else.
Yep. It's from my experience, this is the way I look at it. It's like the whole first 10 years of the MCU and Marvel, they used their most popular characters, right? They used Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Spider-Man to an extent. And now they're using the characters that maybe a lot of people out there, the normal folk, not super collectors like us, the
Right,
normal folk they're not really too familiar with. So that I think drives the prices down. You don't see the big jumps on certain books because how many people are familiar with the Submariner?
right.
The average person, not collectors.
Yeah,
So
yeah, for sure.
that drives down, views, it drives down, prices, it drives down everything because people are not as familiar. You can also throw in the hat that the MCU has kind of been in a lull since coronavirus. You had Spider-Man No Way Home, which was the last like good movie. You had Doctor Strange was okay. But like then you have all the TV shows in between. We're not seeing like the big blockbuster Avengers movie. And even when we get to the next Avengers movies, the Kang Dynasty, is it going to be like the older Avengers movies? How great was Avengers Infinity War?
Yeah,
That was a tremendous movie.
yeah,
I don't think you're getting that, but I don't know. And if that does happen and it is a great movie, you'll start to see these books starting to take off again.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's kind of the way I looked at it too. I mean, I think with uh, Submariner got its pop when there started to be rumors, and I think that's kind of where I've been noticing
Yeah.
is instead of people waiting for the trailer to happen, as soon as rumors start happening, that's when the books pop. And if you and it's like if you buy it after that, like you're taking a big chance waiting till the
Yep.
trailer now, because like the She-Hulk one, when rumors started happening about a She-Hulk show, the book shot up. And then when the trailer happened, the market is obviously flooded at that point too. And it's like, um, there's so many copies available. Like, yeah, I'm sure there were sales here and there, but it definitely is kind of like shot itself in the foot, when that happens, flooding them, like we talked about earlier, flooding the market when a trailer drops. I mean,
I think you're 100% right. Once the rumors happen, you got to unload, right? Forget the announcement, forget the casting, forget the trailer. When you start hearing the rumors, that's the time to buy. That's the time to sell because that's when everybody starts unloading everything.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think that's, everybody I still hear tons of people talking about, oh, when the trailer pops, when the trailer drops, this is, this Riri book is going to go nuts whenever we see her in the movie. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I think that book's already, that book was hitting 8 grand not long ago. Now you can barely get 2.5 out of them. I think that the time for that book hitting its height has already passed because the rumors happened already, and we already knew it was going to happen. So I don't think people are as much waiting to see the character to make sure it's real. People just like, like you said, I mean, going on that rumor at this point, because a lot of times here recently, I mean, there's been a lot of rumors, but most of them have been coming true. So
The other factor you got to look at is the people who collect comics for the most part are people who are, you know, mid 30s to let's say mid 50s, right? In that area, that 20-year range, maybe early 30s. We can go a little earlier. And most of those people, are they reading Riri Williams? Are they excited to see that character go on screen? I don't even know if they know who that character is. So I don't know. I can't speak to that. But the people who we saw early on with Marvel movies, those are the people who grew up with those characters. So those books really spiked because of the years and years and years of buildup for those characters. Now you have a
mhm.
character like Riri Williams, even to the extent of Miles Morales. Miles Morales, I think that book was published in 2011. It's been 11 years, as opposed to the first Spider-Man, it's been 60 years. So
Yeah,
there's so much buildup. When the younger generation gets to our age, maybe those bigger characters like the Miles, like the Spider Gwen, they get to that level. I don't know if they ever will, but that's when they will, not now.
yeah, yeah. That's something I think about all the time too. Like I know growing up, I didn't ever pick up a comic. I had never been to a comic book store, couldn't have told you where one was. Um, I started collecting around like 2018, and if you would have asked me in 2017, I would have told you I didn't even think comic books were still being printed. And that mentality kind of made me, knowing that that was my mentality, it makes me think all the time, like outside of people uh, who grow up in households with collectors, how many collectors are there going to continue to be? In 40 years, are a lot of the people, are a lot of the kids now collecting uh, to where those books can maintain and at that time, and it kind of makes me worried sometimes about like what will happen because you got to think right now there's less people reading and collecting than there were in the 80s. And
Even if you compare, like, and I always say this, the day that comic books died, in my opinion, is when they changed the paper. The paper that they use now for comics, I think, ruined the comic book selling industry because they went over to that new paper and it's just awful. To me, it's not collectible. If you go back to look at like a Silver Age book, even a Bronze Age book,
yeah,
the type of paper that was used back then, it lends itself to being more collectible than the stuff they use now. It almost looks, I don't want to say fake, but that's what it looks like to me. It looks like fake paper.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and not only that, but the biggest part of collectability is a lot of the times outside of your preference and favorite in the character, but a lot of times it's going to be based on scarcity and rarity.
Yeah.
And at this point, especially if you're a graded comic book collector, I mean, you've got books that have been out less than a year, and there's thousands of them on the census already in nine
Yep.
eighths. And um, I think stuff like that is going to play a part too. I mean, when you want to look for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1, that's a hard book to come by, especially a first print, especially in a high grade. There wasn't many of them to start with. There's
I
probably,
think 3,000. I think 3,000.
yeah, and not all of those made it.
Yeah.
So that's a book that I think will have no problem holding out long term and always being something collectible. The franchise reached so far outside of comics that I would say, half the people that are fans of the franchise probably don't even know they started in comic books. And so you've got stuff like that, and then you've got the modern stuff where it goes straight from shelves straight to CGC, and you got 500 copies within the first month that are 9.8s. And so how hard are they going to be to find later on, and how many people are going to care in 20 years that this was the first appearance of the red suit bubblegum man? I mean,
That's exactly it. It's like I always say this phrase is what's pushing this book higher. What's going to push this book higher? For a lot of the story stuff, I could see like what's going to push it higher. The modern stuff, outside of a couple books, I don't see what's pushing it higher. Outside of scarcity, if there's something that's like a 1 in 50, all right, I could see why it gets like the price point that it gets, but outside of that, what pushes it higher?
yeah, yeah, for sure. Because and that's kind of what I was getting into, I guess, is um I know I collect a lot off of nostalgia. I did a show today on another channel where he just has you come on
Oh,
and show off your graded comics.
I
And
was watching. I saw that.
okay,
It was a
so
good show.
appreciate it. So you saw like the first half. I mean, I showed like 25 books. It was all nostalgia stuff that I loved as a kid, and that's what drove me to buy these books and collect these books. So if you if in 20, 30 years we don't have near the amount of collectors that we're collecting as kids, who's going to be nostalgic for all this stuff that's out right now? I mean,
Exactly.
and that I think nostalgia drives a lot in comics. I mean, a lot.
It is a lot, and we speak to the younger generation because how do they, unless they got started early in comics, what is pushing their buying? The movies and the shows are pushing their buying for the
Hmm.
younger generation. For us and for people older than us, it was comics in general because they grew up reading for the most part because they didn't have that many things like shows and stuff like that when we were
Yeah.
growing up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we had the cartoons, and,
Cartoons, yeah,
we didn't really have movies like we have now,
no,
for sure. So, I probably would have had nothing. I would have had no knowledge superheroes wise as a kid, had I not been a big fan of the Spider-Man animated show, the X-Men animated series, Batman Adventures, that kind of stuff. uh, it consumed me for so long and made me a fan of these characters. And then you find out like, oh, these are comic book characters. And the nostalgia starts to drive you in that direction. So I'm curious to see what effect that's going to have later on, because I don't see a bunch of young people younger than me. I'll be 33 in November.
oh, you're a young man compared to me.
Yeah. And I don't see a lot of people younger than me at my local shop when I go in. And I'm just like, man, what happens whenever I'm in my 50s, and my kid right now, he thinks comic books are cool. He'll be 7 years old in a couple of months. Daddy thinks they're cool, so obviously he thinks they're cool. In 20 years, is he going to give a crap? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what's gonna come out between now and then that will catch people's attention more. And you know, I don't know. Do you think comic books, uh, and I don't mean like modern stuff, but I mean like you know uh, stuff like this. I mean, can you see? Do you think at any point stuff like this could be so outdated that it's just absolutely just worthless?
No, absolutely not. So I'm going to speak to that book because you showed it. I don't know, do not know why that book is so undervalued.
Yeah.
It is criminally undervalued. And the only reason I could think of it is because it's not his true first appearance. It is his first Silver Age
Yeah.
appearance, but it is still relatively cheap. You can go out there and get like a 2.0 for $1,500 right off the top of my
Yeah.
head. I know that because I was researching that book today. It's not a lot of money for a Silver Age book, first Silver Age appearance of Captain America. No, I'll never say that book or those Silver Age books will ever be outdated. Somebody out there will always have an attachment to the original characters that were created in the 1960s, in my opinion. And Captain America's, 1930s, but some of them will always have an attachment to those characters. The newer characters are different because the generation that collects comics now, or from your age to throughout, they're not as attached to the newer characters that come out, but the original ones, they are. So the younger generation, those that do read comics, are they going to become the next ones that are attached to the newer characters? I'm going to say no. I think they're still going to be attached to the older characters. I think
Yeah.
I have a 10-year-old that is a huge Spider-Man fan, like absolutely loves Peter Parker to death. So
I wonder where he gets that from.
yeah, exactly. But it's it's he likes Miles, but it's just Peter Parker is his Spider-Man for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I can definitely see what you're saying, because I mean, even though um I had no attachment, and as far as, I read these books when they came out, in the 90s or the 80s or whatever. My preference is still on the Silver Age books, way before anything modern or current. Outside of, again, the goofy nostalgia stuff like this
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I'm obviously not going to spend close to the amount of money on that I will on a Silver Age book. But um, I think that we as collectors, we look at this as history, and the appreciation for the history behind what this is, the fact that this is the first time we've seen this character in a comic book since the 50s. And the same guy who drew him in his first appearance is drawing him here. And you get the history. It's part of the history behind this character. It's a big focal point in this character's history. And that's something that me as a Captain America fan, I'm going to appreciate that more than I'm going to appreciate any other Captain America key that's come out in the last 10, 15 years.
Of course, because it's a key. But the one last thing that I'll bring up about the modern books as opposed to the older books is that don't forget all of these characters they're coming up with now for the most part in the modern age, they're all multiverse variants of original characters, right? That's a big deal because would you rather have a variant of an original character or the original character? I'd rather have the original character.
Yeah.
And I think that plays a lot into it. Like the Riri we talked about, she's not the original Iron Man. Jane Foster as Thor, she's not the original Thor. It's stuff like that. Miles, he's not the original Peter Parker. Stuff like that. They're
Yeah.
using these older characters to bring kind of a different appreciation to these newer characters. But at the end of the day, they're just kind of recreations of something that's already been there.
Yeah. Except for that Golden Goblin that's coming out soon. That one right there, that's gonna have to be a break the bank book for sure. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
100%. Just like that Red Goblin, like a few years ago. Same thing.
Yep, for sure. Um, what's been the biggest, what book do you think has been the biggest surprise for you throughout this year, as far as a continued steady increase, or something that just dropped out of
E-
nowhere?
Easy answer. You ready? Incredible Hulk #1. I know it's a big boy, but if you went and saw that book 2 years ago, I paid for a 1.8 copy. I paid $6,700. I sold that book a year and a half later, or 2 years later, for $13,000 and change. Literally 2 weeks later, the person that I sold it to sold it to somebody else, and they're asking 17,000 for it now. That book has done nothing but go up in price. It's not going down. It hasn't taken a dip. That book has been steady, steady, steady. The reason why I can only say it's because it's probably one of the scarcest Marvel keys that's out there. It is a blue chip key, so I get it. Not a lot of people can go out there and buy the book, but that book has not dropped 1 cent.
Yeah.
And it's caught my eye. It's because of its scarcity, because of its popularity, and because of the fact that it hasn't gone down. People are looking to buy that book. On the opposite end, you mentioned it, Ultimate Fallout 4 was one, a big one. I can't believe the price that it's going for right now. It's actually I just saw a 9.6 listed, like you said, for 800 and change, where that book was like 1,500, $1,600 not too long ago. The 9.8 was like 3,000, then it jumped to 4,000. Now it's down to like 2,400 or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's just come down so much. Werewolf by Night, 32. Moon Knight, that book was down crazy. Fantastic Four number 48, which I say all the time on my
I
channel.
think it's
That book
crazy.
that book dropped like 60% in like 6 months. I don't know why, because he hasn't shown up. He hasn't been rumored to show up. That book should be not be going down. That book should be going up. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to get another copy for myself, and I urge everybody out there to go try to get yourself a copy, because Silver Surfer is a big deal. A lot of people
Yeah.
love that character. When he shows up, that book's going to go up again, 100%.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a winner for sure. I got my 49 this year. 48's definitely one that I'm going to be trying to pick up because I agree. Every time I see a copy listed on Facebook or Instagram, I'm just like, what? There's no way that this is really this cheap, in my because I have in my mind what I would think that this book would go for in, a 4.0, and then I realized like it's less than $1,500. Are you kidding me?
It's insanity, because I know a lot of people don't like the cover. I'm not a huge fan of the cover either,
Yeah.
but it's such an important book. Even 49, like you mentioned, there's a rumor out there that there's going to be some type of Galactus, like, nod, like that he's coming at the end of all this. So I
Mm,
don't know if that's the case, but that is a book that people are. It went up a ton. Now it's starting to fall back down again. Like,
yeah.
that's another book on top of 48 that you got to go out there and get if you're willing to hold it. You want to buy it and sell it within a year, don't do it. But they're both coming. Like, now's the time to jump on both of those books.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think for me, one of the books, and I'll just say a character because it's actually two books, and this is something that you've talked about multiple times on your channel, and every time it pops up, you have the same thing to say is like this book has continued to stay steady. It's continued moving up. I don't understand why, and I don't understand why either. I'm a huge fan of Ghost Rider, but I have been just absolutely amazed that out of everything that we've talked about, Ghost Rider, Marvel Spotlight number 5, and Ghost Rider 1, those books have been pretty consistent and pretty heavy. I don't know what they're doing right this second, but I know for the past few months they have been on and off of every list, going up, 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 and I'm just like, do people really think that Johnny Blaze is going to be in a movie like next week or something? I mean,
I just saw something before that supposedly in the Werewolf by Night Disney Plus show that they're supposed to be either a Legion of Monsters appearance or the Midnight Suns appearance with him in it. So there's speculation, but regardless of the speculation, that is one of the top 4 Bronze Age keys you should go out and buy regardless.
yeah,
Hulk 181, Giant Size X-Men 1, Marvel Spotlight 5, and ASM 129. If we're just going to go by age, those are the 4 books I want to own out of the Bronze Age. Definitely one of them. Like you said, it hasn't really gone down. If it has, maybe it's got like 100, $150, not too big of a deal. People are really specking on that book. The one ASM 129 is just started to come in now a little bit, but I think they already kind of got confirmation that John Bernthal is going to take the role, and that's probably why.
yeah.
So, but yeah, that's a big deal, Marvel Spotlight. I've been harping on that book for like a year and a half already.
Yeah, 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 and I was just like, man, like I keep expecting it to fall off, and it just, will not go away, and I mean, it doesn't bother me one way or the other. I have both of them, but it's just
I saw you pull out that the Ghost Rider 1 today on that show. That thing was nice at a high grade. And you got
yeah,
that at a crazy, crazy good price.
yeah, I paid like $500 for it
Yeah.
last summer for an 8.0, and a buddy of mine, Man Cave Comics and Collectibles, sent me the Marvel Spotlight 5 as an AOK year before last. So luckily I've got those. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just those are books that I never would have I would have thought would have definitely slipped under the radar and continued to or started to drop at some point. But it definitely surprised me that those continue to move on an upward tick or and at least leveling off without a huge dip. But as far as something falling, The you said Ultimate Fallout 4. That's definitely one that I absolutely blew my mind that one fell as far as it did. And it's like every time it goes back up to a higher price, it's like it comes down lower than it was before, even in a a 9.8, which is just wild to me. But I think another one, and I talked about Turtles 1 earlier. I really thought Turtles 1 was a book that if you'd asked me, I would have told you, like, I don't think that book will ever even drop at all, like not even 10%.
You
But
talking about Adventures or the original one?
the original, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, first print. But I've seen some sales and stuff over the past few months that I was like, wow, it's down like 15-20%, which isn't a lot when you consider that 15% and 15-20% drop is still probably almost 50% more than what it was selling
Yeah.
for 3 years ago. But that one kind of surprised me that it even dropped at all, just because it is such a scarce book, because of the print run, and especially in a high grade because of the quality of the paper they use. I mean, these guys essentially printed this book off in their
Yeah.
basement on like like something you would have like as a home printer almost. I mean, it was not like a super professional done thing. So I think people underestimate just how absolutely scarce that book is, especially in a high grade. Just talking about the first print. I mean, second and third print don't have a huge print run, but that
No.
first print is a monster, man.
It's also like timing. Like I'm not too sure when these books sold. So a friend of mine told me that once you get back into like the end of September is when you start to see people like the better time to sell books. So when we start to get that like that
Yeah.
spring through the summer, you kind of get that lull where prices aren't as high. So it's all about timing too. I think it's good that like the big keys get a little bit of a correction because you can't just go straight up forever.
Yeah.
They come down and then they go up to a higher price. So you get that boost up and you over like a year, a couple of years, it goes down a little bit and then you kind of get that boost up again.
hmm And with the Hulk one you were talking about, I couldn't agree with you more on that. I have a buddy that we were talking about that not too long ago. Him and his brother actually purchased a copy, raw copy last year at Lexington, and I think someone finally got them to sell it to them because they weren't really wanting to, but I think they finally got somebody to let them buy it. And I think people really sleep on, just like you said, how rare that book is. I mean, if you go next time you go to a Comic-Con, guys, if you get out to a comic show, walk around and check walls and keep a tally on how many AF-15s you see on the walls, and then keep a tally on how many Hulk ones you see, and it's gonna shock you. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't really think so. I've talked to several people that thought that was a little crazy, but I mean, the last convention I went to, I think there was probably 10 or 12 AF-15s on the walls. I didn't see any Hulk ones anywhere. And it's like that's one of those books. If you see it and it's a book you want and you got the money, I mean, you got to really consider walking away from it, because you don't know the next time you're going to see one. Especially being able to pick something like that in person without having to send it through the mail is a big deal.
And a raw book. You said they found a raw book. How
Yeah.
hard is it to find a raw Hulk one or
Right?
any type of huge raw key now? Let's if
Mhm.
anybody watches out there watches my channel, like for the most part, I'm only buying raw books right now because they're so hard to find. I
Yeah.
actually here I got this sitting right here, so I'm going to show you. I picked this up a couple months back, a raw Tales of Suspense 39.
Wow.
And I'm not going to get it graded because you'll where do you ever find one? Where are you ever going
Right.
to see a raw tail suspend? You're not. So I'm just going to leave it like that and say because someday I'll have the only one.
Yeah, no doubt.
So,
Dropping
but the Hulk
some.
one, yeah, definitely.
All right. Um, yeah, that's a book I've probably seen in person less than 5 times, and that's probably given it a couple of extra points, because 2 of those times were at the same booth, and one of the and that's the booth where my buddies bought it from, and those guys are actually friends of ours now, that had it, and they had 2 copies. Um, I think one was raw and one was graded, and they sold
Oh,
both copies at that show,
that's
and
that's
those
a
guys were
dream for
elated.
me.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, yeah, absolutely. That I've not ever been like Hulk. I don't have Hulk merch like I do Cap stuff, but my son Hulk is his jam, and so something like that would be super cool. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I don't know if I shell that money out for him in 20 years, he's probably just going to sell it. So I think I'm just going to buy me something I want instead. But
Yeah.
if I had the money and I had the book and had a good price on it and I had the money that was available for that, obviously, yeah. I mean, I couldn't turn away a chance to have that book in my collection. That just would be, outstanding. I mean, I I got the facsimile. That's probably, close as I get. I got the 102. I've got a bunch of Hulk stuff, but the Hulk one, man, would just be nuts to have.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the reprint, if you have never read the original Hulk story, it is awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome. One
Hmm.
of my favorites to ever read, so
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. As far as origin stories and beginnings of a major character, he's got to be that his story has to be top of the list. Right there. One or number one or number two. I mean, it's definitely agree with you on that. And a lot of people um, don't know how how the transformation actually worked in the beginning in the comic books too. So, it would and so you get to learn a lot of stuff when you go back and you read something like that, and you're like, oh, I had no idea. Um,
I saw your brother was reading the whole ASM run. I watch him talk about all the time how like the early part of ASM doesn't even like blows away anything that has ever been written after that. And it's just the truth. I mean, the way they wrote comics back then compared to the way they write them now, or even just 10 years ago is it's crazy how good they were.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And we're reading Fantastic Four now,
Yeah.
and I mean, I've been reading pieces of Fantastic Four, just different story arcs here and there for the past year or so. But reading it from beginning to end now, I think that's definitely going to be something that's going to be really, really cool to see. And I have a feeling it's going to kind of be like his Spider-Man readings, where it's going to be really, really fun for a while, and then hopefully it doesn't take that dive where it's like, man, this is a struggle to read, and I don't even want to read today or whatever. So
I've heard that the original run by Stan Lee, up to like 100, was like some of the best comic book stories that have ever been written. Fantastic Four, like they said that those books were absolutely phenomenal.
yeah, I've enjoyed let's see, I've read some in the 20s. I started at 48 and read through most of the 50s there. And all of that was really, really solid. And I'm excited to get further into it because I've heard the same thing, and I'm looking forward to getting into like the John Byrne part of the run too, where he had a small run there. Because I mean, pretty much, I've never heard anyone say that well, this the X-Men was great till you get to the John Byrne run, or like nobody ever knocks John Byrne that I've ever heard, and I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. Anything he's ever, got a part in
Yeah.
and doing the art for and stuff like that or whatever, it's just always attached to something that seems to be really good. So, um,
Is there a book that you're hunting for right now that you're trying to knock down?
oh, I would love, there's one, and I've got to make some things happen, but I would love to be able to chase down an Avengers number one. That's one that I've been really wanting to finally pull the trigger on for about a year now, and I was hoping it would start coming back down a little more. And that one's definitely dropping slower than a lot of other ones,
Yeah.
though, for sure.
But I'm surprised it didn't really take off either, and it's a book that's so undervalued that, like, I'm shocked it hasn't gone higher than where it is now. I really
Yeah.
am, because it's such an important book, especially now with everything with all the movies, that it really hasn't taken a massive jump, so the fact that it's not coming down that much either tells you, a lot, so that definitely a book worth picking up, 100%. That's a good one.
Yeah. That's one. I'm hoping. I I picked up a raw copy of Batman Adventures number 12 a couple of weeks back, and it's at CGC right now, and it's 100% a candidate for a 9.8. And I'm hoping to turn that into an Avengers number one. Maybe add a little bit with it, and pick up the Avengers number one. Hopefully, through that, because I got a really good deal on it because it had some pretty big issues with creasing and stuff like that I was able to press and get out. But that's one thing that I always, if I'm not going to pay money for what the book has a possibility of being, I'm going to pay you for what it looks like now.
Yeah.
And that was something that was able to work in my favor. And so hopefully that one comes back a 9.8, and I can, hopefully it doesn't drop before then.
Timing is everything, man.
Yeah. But yeah, Avengers number one is definitely one I'd love to have. Batman 25. Or no, is it 25? No, 20. The first Batmobile on the cover.
Okay.
That was one that I let slip out of my hands this year. My local comic shop actually had a graded, I want to say it was like a 3.5 or a 4.0, white pages.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they had picked up like 4 Golden Age Batman books, and all of them came back white pages.
That's
One of them was
crazy.
one of them's the Joker coming out of the genie lamp cover,
Oh yeah. That's a
and
great
and
cover.
and I think they still have that one, and it's white pages as well. But he had the Batmobile one there, and I'd offered to trade him my 2.5 181 for it, and he was ready to eat it up. And I was like, well, I can't do that. My wife might kill me. That book is supposed to have a return attached to it, even though I'd much rather have the Batman. Um, but yeah, that's
The
probably
Batman book is probably more scarce. So
yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of people out there that that when they're buying stuff like that, that page quality is going to definitely mean.
oh
I
yeah,
know with Golden Age collectors, page quality can make a huge difference.
absolutely.
So is there anything that you would say right now is like your I know you like to do when you do the top 10 list, you'll do your top pick, like the book that and which
My
is
Best
the
Buy.
book you think is the best buy. Yeah. So overall, right now, what do you think would be your best buy, and what book do you think is the one book you'd be staying away from the most, as far as books that have been hyped up over the past year or so?
Wow, that is a really tough question. I think you can't go wrong with anything Silver Age, the bigger stuff. Now, when I say bigger stuff, I'm not talking about blue chip stuff because if you buy a blue chip key, it's obviously you're gonna buy that book and hold on for a while. Those are the best buys you could ever make. So let's just stay there. But if you can get a Silver Age book that for a deal, I'm trying to think of a Silver Age book you can throw out there. Like I threw out FF12, the first Hulk and Fantastic Four meet. That book to me is still cheap for a Silver Age book. I
Yeah.
picked up a copy not too long ago, a couple weeks back, a month ago, for under $1,000 for a lower grade. I love that book. Fantastic Four haven't shown up yet. You never know if you're going to see a Hulk in what are their movies that could bump that book definitely. It's a book when I always go to shows or LCS is a book I always look to buy. So that's a
Hmm.
book definitely that I think is a really good buy right now. I'll go Bronze Age. To me, like I said, the big four, I still think are good buys. The Hulk 181, I'm not ready to go jump in on that yet because of people flooding the market.
Yeah.
Giant Says X-Men 1, Marvel Spotlight 5, and ASM 129, I'm still a buyer of, be honest with you. And if I had to go in order, I would go Giant Size X-Men 1, Marvel Spotlight, and then ASM 129. Copper Age, I got to be honest, if you can go out and get a 9.8 New Mutants 98 and only a 9.8, I think we're going to get a DT23 announcement of Deadpool 3. And I'm hoping Ryan Reynolds is there, but I'm just taking a guess at that. I have no
Yeah.
proof. But I think at a 9.8, that book could really go higher once they get that announcement and he shows up in like a crossover movie and he's
Yeah.
his old Deadpool self. I think
And
that will
now is a
really go
great
over
time to
well.
buy it in a 9.8. I mean, it's
Yes.
way down right now. I mean, I paid $1,500 for the copy I showed off earlier, and I put it up several times to try to sell it, And I finally thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I was like, this book is Thanos. It is inevitable
Yeah.
that this is going to increase. And I was just like, it's a book that I like having, and I almost freaked out and thought the world was ending. And it was just like, I gotta sell it now. I'm never gonna, I'm gonna hold on to it forever. I'm just gonna be out this 15. And then I just really thought about it, and I'm like, no, like that it's inevitable. And now's a great time. I agree to buy that book for sure.
But only in a 98. I don't wanna
Yeah.
buy it in any other
No,
grade because there's so many freaking
yeah.
copies out there that it's not worth it. But that 98, it's gonna be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Eh, I'm trying to think any other books in the Copper Age, but ASM 300 is it's tough because there's a lot of copies out there and a lot of people already have copies. A lot of people forgot about New Mutants 98. Like when that first book when that came out first, like nobody paid attention to it. It was like, oh, whatever. And then when the character later on, people started to become like a fan favorite. And then they went back and say, all right, this is his first appearance. And they would find like a lot of, people never threw it in a bag and board.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot of good copies out there, but as opposed to ASM 300, people love the cover. People, stored it great. Like there were a lot of copies, but people really took care of that book because of the cover. I like the book, but at a 9.8 is crazy expensive. So
Yeah.
I'm not paying, 4,500, whatever it is now for that book. It was even higher a year ago, but
Oh yeah.
those are the books that there's more probably Silver Age books that I'd buy, but those are the books that I go out and look for. If you haven't checked out the video and you watch my channel, I sent out a video of books that I always go into conventions looking to buy. Where Marvel Spotlight 2, the first appearance of Werewolf, is
Mm-hmm.
it's still a really cheap book, and they're
Oh
doing a
yeah.
show on Disney Plus now. I went to a local show a couple weeks back. There were like 4 copies, all raw, all under $400. I almost pulled the trigger on a couple of them, but for the grade, I thought they were asking a little bit too much money. But it's a book I would definitely buy, even with the show, without the show. I think it's a book nobody talks about.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. I think that's one that's definitely kind of hiding under the radar right now for sure. I just had a book pop into my head, and I was just talking to a friend of mine about it yesterday because I realized I knew this book had gotten to a brand new level of expensive over the past 2 years, but I didn't realize that even at a point five, it had gotten out of my range unless I were to move a ton of stuff to direct everything towards getting it. But Fantastic Four number 5, that would be another one, and I know you talk about that one a lot too.
So I'm glad you brought this up. All right. So I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm glad
Oh,
you
go
brought
ahead.
this up. There's somebody in the chat who just asked, and I'm reading the chat. And he said a Hulk 181 8.0, a good deal for 6,300. And that's the first thing that popped into my mind was FF5, because you can go out and get an FF5 2.0 for $6,300. And I'd rather have an FF5 all day long. It's the second scarcest Marvel key ever. So
Yeah.
Hulk 1 and then FF5. So yes, I'm glad you brought that up, dude. That is a book that a lot of people talk about it because he's supposed to show up in the next phase of the MCU. That's what everybody's assuming. But that book is super scarce, and you can get a low grade copy for the same price you're going to pay for a 181 8.0, where there's a million copies out there. I'm buying FF5 all day.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're looking at the he that he's the literally the most expensive first appearance villain in
Yep.
all of comic books outside of the Joker, which doesn't even count because it's freaking Batman 1. But
Yeah.
there's no other villain in any comic book that I can think of anyway that the first appearance even comes close to the price that Doom does. I mean,
Nope.
Doctor Doom and I think people outside of comics, obviously, they may have heard of Doctor Doom, but a lot of people, nobody outside of comics really is going to get it yet. But Doom is going to be a huge deal. I mean, in the comic books, he has touched everything. I mean, he has been everywhere. Lex Luthor, what was his first appearance?
I don't remember the issue number, but so actually somebody just asked me that, like, DM me on Instagram asking if
Okay.
they thought that was a good buy. I said, I actually do think it's a good buy because nobody ever talks about it. Nobody
Yeah.
ever talks about it. Lex Luthor's a huge villain, but more people talk about Doctor Doom. So
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. Like Action 23. There you go.
Okay. So yeah. Okay. So yeah. Back. All right. Well, we'll say from 1962, the beginning of the Marvel Comics era forward, nobody's touching Doom. And um, you know, reading through starting at one and reading through the Fantastic Four, because once I started reading last year, I didn't actually I didn't go read any of the first 10. I jumped in on 25, and like I said, just kind of jumped sporadically throughout. And reading through it this week and getting through the first 10 issues, and I'm just like, man. So the biggest thing with Fantastic Four number 5, and this is going to make a lot of people want to throw up, um outside of the fact that I think Doom is just cool as hell, the fact that Ben Grimm the Thing becomes Blackbeard the Pirate in Fantastic Four number 5, because I love the Thing, and I've always been a big fan of pirate stuff, everything. And I've always said for a long time, like, there's not enough good pirate comic books out there. And when I find out the Fantastic Four go back in time to take Blackbeard's treasure and the Thing ends up being Blackbeard, I was just like, this book was written for me, perfectly written for me. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I can afford a 1.0 if I really grind it out for a while and put some stuff back. And I looked up the price of a 1.0, and I looked up, I checked GPA. I saw a point 0.5 was selling for like twice what I thought a 1.0 might be selling for. Uh, and I was just like, wow, man, it's like over 4 grand for a point 0.5. And it
Really?
just,
Wow, that's expensive.
yeah, that's what GPA said, I believe yesterday, and I started talking to my buddy Jeff about it, and he's like, "Dude," he's like, "Doom's on another level, man." He's like, "Nobody's touching Doom, man. That book is on a plane by itself right now." And
He's the
um,
biggest Marvel villain there ever
yeah,
has been. So I mean,
exactly,
like you said it, he's been in everything. He's touched every character. He's the biggest there is.
yeah. I mean, and a lot of people right now, Thanos is the biggest thing, but those are people who haven't read comics and don't know what's coming when Doom gets here. And God Almighty, I hope they don't mess Doom up. If
I
Doom doesn't make Thanos look like an afterthought, oh my gosh.
think about
Red
it. He's
Skull
also an
doesn't count either, Chris Barrett.
He's also an earthbound villain, right? He's not like a super,
Right.
from wherever. He's an earthbound villain. So like that also means something when you have someone who's intellectually matching those like around him, like the genius of Tony Stark, the genius of Reed Richards, the genius of Spider-Man. Like you have a villain that matches that, and it's probably greater than those guys. Like that's what makes him great.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I'm so excited to keep reading and getting further into the Fantastic Four stuff and continue to gain knowledge on Doom. And I've always thought he was a really cool character, but I've never dove into him really deep. But I think at this point, after I get through this Fantastic Four stuff, I think I'll end up probably just trying to go on like a Doom everything I can find and read stuff, because even in Submariner too. A lot of people, I've heard a lot of people say, why are people getting upset over him not being comic accurate? He sucked in comics, and I'm reading through the Fantastic Four, and he shows up in like 3 of the first 10 issues, and I'm like, he did not suck at all in those issues. He was a legit badass, and I thought he was great. I mean, everything that I've read of him so far, I mean, he's been cool as crap. I mean, how many characters are gonna come in and beat up your soon to be husband, your brother, and your best friend, and then you're still gonna defend him because you know what? I know he's kind of acting bad and everything, but I kind of love him too. I mean,
Yeah.
like, beat you up and steal your girl. I mean, how much cooler can you get?
Another we talked about like books that I definitely think or I haven't gone anywhere is Daredevil 1 is another book I always talked about that out of the big, Marvel heroes, that is the cheapest one you're going to find. And you can get
Yeah.
like a 2.0 for like 3,000 or under now. That to me is crazy. Like where A of 15 and where Daredevil is, I get the popularity is swayed in Spider-Man's favor, but Daredevil has had a TV show, he's had a movie, albeit a crappy movie, and now he's gonna come back to Disney Plus, and we're gonna see that banana costume on the She-Hulk, man. They're gonna take that show to a whole new level, and I expect that book to go higher.
Yeah, yeah. That's a book that it was never something that I pined for or had a lot of interest in, but I thought the same thing. I was like, I know tons of people that Daredevil is their guy. Like that's their
Yeah.
favorite character. And you hear people talk about the Frank Miller run and even the Zdarsky run, those are things that I hear people talking about all the time. And I'm like, but why is the first appearance so cheap? And like it's crazy to me. Um he's not on a level even with a character. um I don't even know. I mean, there was one character that I was looking at one point, and I was like, "How is this guy's first appearance more expensive than Daredevil's?" But
Yeah.
uh, I yeah, I for sure agree with you on that. And I think Marvel Spotlight 5 is still low too.
I think
Um,
they're gonna do a really good job with that character once they bring him in. I think they're doing the right thing by bringing him in with all these other type of similar characters like Blade, like the werewolves, guys like that, Moon Knight. They're bringing them all together, and we're gonna see where it goes for like hopefully like a darker universe. Punisher. I'm really looking forward to that. I hope they do that right.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I saw something in here. I was going to let's see. Yeah, I see you. I see you, Chris, talking about Red Skull. Again, Red Skull doesn't count. His first appearance was Captain America #1. So I'm not counting that as being worth more than Doctor Doom's first appearance. Um, let, Black Adam, will you stop it? Will you please stop it? Who would you like to see Doom portrayed by? That's something I really don't know.
It has to
I,
be a
I
larger than life figure, right?
yeah,
Not somebody too popular, but somebody that's like towering, huge. Someone who portrays that. I couldn't even begin to tell you who. You
yeah, he
haven't
definitely has to
suggestion?
have a presence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to think the other day of who I would like to see as Ben Grimm too, and I was just like, I really don't know. I think the guy who did it in the first movie was fantastic.
Yeah, I thought
I
he was
thought
too.
I thought he was great, and at that point, I had no knowledge of comic books at all. But after going through and reading now, I'm like, man, that guy was actually really good. Galactus sucked, but that guy was pretty good. Solomon Grundy, I like Solomon Grundy. I like Solomon Grundy. That's a book that would be cool to have. Let's see. I thought was there something else? Let's see. Do, do,
So Chris Barrett, I know who Mike Mizinen is, so I love him, but I don't think he should play Doctor Doom.
no, no. Who was it that everybody was hoping he would play? There was a people were Johnny Cage. That's what it was in the Mortal Kombat movie. I think he would be good for that. I think
He's
he would
he's
be good
he's
for
a
that.
fantastic in wrestling, so I think he would be
Yeah,
great as something, but I don't think not for that character.
yeah. Let's see. You guys have any questions for Lawrence? Anything that we've talked about or haven't talked about? Questions on, maybe a price on a book that you've been thinking about. I know he answers. He does a live stream, and people jump on there and they'll just kind of run stuff by him as far as prices on books they're looking at and stuff. And so if you guys have any questions at all, just drop those in the chat. Yeah, yeah, I know, Ryan. I could see it, to be Fantastic Four and the Thing. Let's see. Man, I saw that those big time collectibles Superman books were going for like $700 already on eBay.
You know what? It reminds me of that stupid acetate gate stuff. Like I don't know who's buying that stuff. Who's buying like a reprint for $1,000 or whatever the hell it is. I don't get it because it's gold foil because CGC says it's a 10 or whatever it is. Like it's all it is a reprint. We understand that,
Yeah,
right, guys? It's a reprint that they're saying is a gold foil and that they're gonna say is a 10. And you're going to spend $1,000 on that or whatever the hell it's going for now. When you could spend like a little bit more and get a Marvel Spotlight 5 like we just talked about.
yeah, yeah, and that's another thing that I always appreciate in your videos because when you talk about a book that you wouldn't be buying, you tend to do that a lot. It's like, you can pay this crazy money for this, which is pretty minuscule in comparison to something you could put a little more with and get like the first appearance in the in of the character for just a little bit more. And I think a lot of times people, and me included, I've been guilty of it. You're looking at what's right in front of you and you're counting your dollars up and you're like, well, I can get this now. And I anytime I've done that, I'm like, damn it, man. Like, if I would have actually like thought to take a minute and do a little digging, then for another $500 I could have gotten this one, which is the way better book. And I'm trying to train my brother with that too. Like, I tell him all the time, like, don't buy a book without if it's over $200, don't buy a book without asking me first, please. Because he
I
he
do.
doesn't.
Listen, we're all like, we've all done that. I've done that too, especially when I first got back into this thing. It's like you see all this stuff and like, oh wow, that's a pretty good price. But then you start thinking, oh wait a minute, this book is probably worth it more, and I should have put that
Mhm.
money towards this book. We're all guilty of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I put Nick on a leash as much as I can, and I'm like, yeah, I was like, before you buy anything, bro, like when we're at cons, I'm like, don't buy anything that is of any substantial amount of money unless I'm there with you. Number one, to help get you a deal on it, because Nick will just say, how much do you want for it? Okay, here's an extra 30. Have a
Yeah.
good day. And I'm like, let me get you a deal, man. Save you some money and let me at least look at the book. And, I know Justin, he uses me like I'm his number one Comic-Con tool now. When we went to Heroes, he had a list of books he wanted, and we went around and we looked at them. He would find them. He'd call me, hey, can you come look at this? And I'm looking at it, pulling it out, looking at the books. And I mean, if you're not if you don't have the knowledge to be able to look at something and tell what the grade might be, and if you're paying a fair price for the condition, definitely try to see if there's someone that can come with you, or someone you can send pictures to, and check on that stuff, because it's always something that I try to do now, is before I make a purchase on a book that's of any substantial amount, is make sure that I am 100% sure that this is the right book for the right price, because we all work hard for our money, and throwing it away just don't make no sense. So
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. When you go to a show, like I have this like habit of going. Like, if I go to the first booth, like, if I see some book that I'm interested in, I have to, like, circle every booth before I actually make an offer on a book, just to see if anybody else has a better price first. So I don't ever, like, whenever I go to show, like, I don't like, I'll go to the first booth, and then I'll just keep going until I hit all the booths and say, okay, this is the one that I want. But let me try to get the best deal. So I'll never buy anything at the first booth that I go to, at the second booth. I have to check all of them out first and then go.
yeah, I'm the same way. I go in, and my first plan of action is, I'm gonna hit the walls on every booth. I'm not even digging in the boxes yet. I'm gonna hit the walls on every booth, and I'm gonna be making actual notes or mental notes of like, all right, that's what I want. They've got it here, this grade, this price. If it's raw, I'll look at it, check out the condition on it, and I'm like, okay. And checking, like you said, check at every booth, and if there's another one that's comparable, um, you know, is the price different? And I'll talk to them too, and kind of gauge if I think that I'll be able to get a better deal out of this guy or that guy. And something else I'll do, and I actually did it with the Edge of Spider-Verse #2. I bought that raw at Huntsville Comic Con, and I had walked around the entire con, looked at all the walls, and I hadn't bought anything, but I saw that book, and they had it priced for like $750, I think, raw. And I said, okay. I was like, all right, I'm gonna keep an eye on that one. So the next day, I think it was day 2 of the con, I specifically sat at the booth next to them, and I dug there for a long time, and I was watching. And I mean, they were getting very little foot traffic at their booth. And every time I'd walk by, I would look at their wall again. And every time I walk by, I'd look at it again. And towards the end of the day 2, I looked at the wall again. I said, "Man, they have not moved a single book off their wall." I said, "They're ready to make a deal. Got to be ready to make a deal." I was like, "They haven't moved much. Like, there's no way they've made their booth back yet." and I ended up getting that book for $400. Number one, he had the book priced as if it was a near mint condition. I asked him if he would pull the book out of the bag and board. Can I see the book? I want to look at the back. I want to look at it and check it in the different lighting angles. And I found spine ticks. I found creases. I found color rub, all things that are legitimate issues that are reason to lower the price on that book. And so that's another way that I'll do it too, is I'll just, if I see something that I really want at a booth, I'll keep an eye on that booth and see if it looks like they're moving stuff. And, that'll give you a good idea of, like, if they're making money hand over fist, then, they're probably not going to be willing to make too good of a bargain with you, because it's like, well, if you don't buy it for this price, we got a good shot somebody else will. We've been, slinging them all day. But yeah, I definitely do that. I'll hit every wall and definitely make sure that I'm not paying over, because I know that happened with Justin at Lexington last year. I told you he wanted that Ultimate Fallout 4 9.8. I talked him into just buying a raw copy. So he bought the best raw copy that we saw out of 3 or 4 booths. 25 minutes later, the booth next to our buddies that had the Angry Girlfriend variant we did the video for, the booth next to them, which is actually the guys that I found out live close to me and became friends with, they had one for, I think, a couple of $100 cheaper, and it looked better. and I'm like, you know what? Like, you win some, you lose some, but that's
Yeah.
definitely something, some good advice for sure. I mean, check everything first. Don't, nothing. There's not many books out there that you're never going to see again. So
No, absolutely not. Unless it's like a big time book, like, Golden Age, stuff like
yeah,
that, super rare. You'll always see it again.
yeah, yep, for sure. So we got a question here. Let's see. GL87 8.0. What is that?
Green Lantern 87.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That's what I think he means anyway.
Yeah. That's yeah. Let's see. I'm just trying to see if we had any more questions. Um, I think that's it though. I don't think we have any more questions here. If you guys have any more last minute questions, I think we're getting close to wrapping it up. We've been going almost 2 hours, so it's getting kind of late. But
This was fun, dude.
yeah,
Thank you for having
absolutely.
me on here, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. I had a blast. Maybe maybe we can try to get you on a couple more times here and there, man. It'd be cool to be able to get on and I mean, even if we just get on and uh, I don't know, just shoot the crap on anything or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Absolutely. This, like I said, I could sit here and just talk about comics and movies
yeah,
and all Marvel, DC stuff forever. Like, I
hmm
just kind of talk to whoever's in the chat. That's why, like, once a month I could do like a live Q&A just to kind of answer anybody who has any question, talk about stuff that's going on. And it's great to have, like, I've done a couple where I've had like 3 or 4 people on at once, and we're just
hmm
kind of like spitballing back and forth. So that's fun too. If we get a bunch of people to go on, I think that's great.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. The first one you did, I was actually traveling to Nick's house, so I was listening to it, and I missed the one after that. But I definitely next time you do it, let me know, and I definitely jump on and hang out, because I'm glad we finally got to sit down and talk over some stuff. You guys have convinced me to purchase an FF5. Well, congratulations, and I also hate you if you get one, because I am super jealous of that. But that is an absolutely fantastic book for sure. And even if you're just buying it for investment purposes, that's one I definitely would have no problem saying you're not going to lose on it. I don't think at all. um, Thoughts on Silver Surfer first appearances after Phase 5?
Silver Server or Silver first appearance? I don't know what he means.
Oh
I don't know if he means Silver Surfer. I definitely think he's coming. I just don't know when.
yeah,
If that's the question, if it's a Silver Age book after Phase 5, I don't know where Marvel goes after this. I'd have to say Doctor Doom, right? FF5, as they is, if this whole thing is what everybody's saying, and this is leading to Kang taking over, and then Secret Wars. Doctor Doom is a huge part of
yeah,
Secret Wars.
yeah.
So he
Very
will be,
pivotal.
I think, the next focus of everything after that movie. I think it will be all Doctor Doom after that.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if they do original Secret Wars or if they do the Hickman Secret Wars. Doom was pivotal in both of those. So, I absolutely
And,
agree. And
and if you can't go out and get an FF5, because I get it, not a lot of people can go out. It's a lot of money. I just did a video. I'm starting to do like a top 5 per character. So I just did my first one was Doctor Doom, and I have the top 5 books that I would buy. And I had,
Mhm.
you don't want to watch the video, I'll just spoil it for you now. FF5 was number 1. Amazing Spider-Man number 5 was number 2 because that was the first crossover between Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man. Um, what was number 3?
The
Fantastic Four number
annual
6 was on. It
annual
was the
2 was
annual. It was
annual
annual
2.
2. Yes, it was
That's
annual
one
2.
that's on my list to get to. I've been after that one. I was
FF6 was
surprised you
number.
put that above the second appearance, honestly,
Yeah.
but I
Listen,
agreed with you.
for the dollar, it's just because of the dollar amount, right?
Yeah.
My biggest motto is don't overpay for second appearances. I don't think it's worth it. And FF6 is like 5 times the price as I'm sorry, that is five FF6 is 5 times the price as the annual one. And that book also retells the origin of Doctor Doom. So
Mhm.
I think that's a better book to buy. I still like ASM5 better. And then the fifth book I chose was Fantastic Four 57 because of that great Jack Kirby cover,
Yep.
Enter Doctor Doom. So I
And
think
I
that
think
those are picks.
I think in it's either in that issue or something or that begins the story arc where he actually takes Surfer's powers from him.
Yes.
And I've got one of those at CGC right now. I got the Doom label coming on it, and but yeah, I loved everything that was on that list. And the only thing that I could think that might be pushing that FF6 on top of the Doom second appearance is the fact that it's the first Marvel villain
Villain
team
team.
up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So but that Sly Devil Doctor Doom, he it wasn't much of a team up for long.
No, that he was. And that's what makes him great, though. That's why you got to go out
Yeah.
and get those books.
Yeah.
So,
I
so
mean, and I was reading it and I didn't see it coming.
So I want to address a question that I see. So somebody, Rama Salami asked, will Lawrence be coming back to the outdoor sales at Gotham Underground? I missed him the last time. So last time there was like a freaking hour and a half rainstorm. So we had
Mm,
to like pack up and leave. So guess what? This Saturday, a week from today, we're doing another one on
awesome.
September 10th. So I'm going to be there probably like 9 to 3. So if you're going to be around, come back 9 to 3. I'm there.
There you go. FF10.
Which one is
Uh
10?
10 is the third appearance of Doom, I believe.
Let me just look at the cover just because so I can see which book it is. I do not remember what that is.
'Cause 9 is when Surfer
All
buys a
right, I see
movie
it.
studio, and I think 10 is the third Doc appearance.
So it's the Return of Doctor Doom. So to me, like I love the Jack Kirby cover, but to me, I just don't want to spend the money on that cover because what's it? Yeah, it's a third Doom, but I don't know what the price range is for this book. But every time I see this book listed, I still think it's too much money to spend on it.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I didn't put it on my list. I'd rather have a cheaper option at that point. And that's why the annual 2 to me I thought was a better buy.
Yeah, because I agree because you can buy for you, and I haven't. You probably know better than I, but I would assume for the cost of a low grade 10, you could probably buy a really high grade annual 2,
Yeah.
and it's got a way better cover, and again, it's a square bound book. It's Silver Age, so that's still Silver Age.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Silver Age, square bound, white cover. If you can get one of those in a really high grade, you're back into the kind of like we were talking about the giant size X-Men. It's a lot harder to get than a lot of other stuff that's going to be surrounding that. But you got the better cover, you have the origin, and you have a much higher grade. Yeah, it's not the third appearance, but once you get past the second appearance, a lot of people kind of really fall off of interest. And so they start looking at other keys. I think that Marvel Superheroes Doctor Doom book, that one's gotten really, really high in price too. And
That
that's another fantastic cover, but
listen, the only reason that wasn't on my list and I talk about it in the video is that because I went to a show a few years back at they had that book listed for $5 somewhere. And I remember seeing it. I'm like, wow, that's a pretty cheap book considering it's Marvel Superheroes 20. And then like literally now it's like a fortune. So to
Yeah.
me that just signifies that the book went up too much. So that's why I
Mhm.
didn't include it on the list.
Yeah, yeah, I thought it was crazy too. Um, I wanna say last year, um, 2021, I wanna say, or it might have been 2020, I saw a copy of that, a nice copy for like 25 bucks raw. And I had sat it down on top of a long box in a stack that I was putting together while I was digging. And when I came back, that book was gone. Somebody pulled it off the top of my stack, and so that has been eating at my dreams ever since then. Especially
Yeah.
now because I was just like, man, that's such a kick-ass cover.
Yeah.
So here we go. One more question here. Question is getting key issues better than collecting series or run, considering a collector is also a seller.
I think it is. I mean, if you're talking about investment purposes and you're going to sell books, yes, getting keys is better. If you're just a collector and you like a certain character, you want to collect all the books, I think that's great. I'm a huge Amazing Spider-Man fan, so I'm trying to collect 1 through 300. So that's just part of me being a collector, but most of the time I'm buying keys because I think for financial reasons that's the better buy.
Yeah. Yeah, and another aspect to look at on that too is if you're buying them to sell them, say you buy a full run of Daredevil and you want to move that. That's going to be fairly pricey, and you've got to find the person out there that wants
Yeah.
to buy a full run of Daredevil. Most run collectors enjoy that thrill of the hunt. They want
Yeah.
to track the books down themselves because if you just go out and buy the whole run, well, there's no fun in it. There's no longevity in it. So I think that it's going to be a lot harder to move the run as well. You're going to get a lot of those. Well, would you break it up and just sell this or just sell that? And it's going to be a lot harder to move the runs than it will just those key issues too, because you got a lot more people looking for the keys.
And if you're going to sell it as a lot, you're probably going to have to take a hit on it because most people are going to want to deal if they're going to take all those books.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and if you got to ship it too,
Mm, forget
damn
it.
it, boy, I couldn't even imagine. I mean, imagine trying to pack up a long box, weigh it, and look at the shipping on that. Yeah, it's gonna be hard. So yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you. I would if you're looking for reselling for sure. But as a collector, man, I mean, if you're just doing collecting, then I used to get into to run collecting. I put together the entire run of Volume 1 and Volume 2 of What If, um, and I was reading through them, and then they started coming out with the omnibus, and I was like, "Oh, this is so much better." For me personally, I was just like, I'm enjoying the omnibus reading. So, if you're someone who is collecting to read them, I mean, there's a lot of other options out there if you're trying to save some money, than putting those runs together too. But I know there's a lot of people out there that they love that thrill of putting those runs together. And it can be fun tracking those books down.
Absolutely. It gives them something to do, like go to hunt, go to shows. Like they don't have to
Mhm.
be worried about spending a ton of money on bigger books. They can just buy like $5 books here, $5 books here, depending on the run that you're trying to collect. But
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Definitely something. Ronnie Boy comments, great conversation. Thank you, man. We appreciate it, man. We've enjoyed it too. I know I haven't been as acknowledgeable, or I haven't acknowledged the chat as much tonight, but I don't think we really missed much, but just kind of got lost in conversation for a little while. Uh but yeah, if you guys is ASM 300 overpriced in your opinion? And I
a
think
little
he
bit.
hit on that a little bit earlier.
I think a little bit is. I mean, Venom's such a popular character that everybody wants the first appearance, but there's so many copies of that book. When I'm on my channel, I always talk about it. You got to get a certain grade level if you're going to buy that book. I'm not sticking to the lower grades. I personally only have a 9.2 copy, but it's signed by Todd, so that's why I bought it. And I got it for a ridiculously cheap price. So I think if you're going to own the book, you got to buy it in high grades.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got that, and New Mutants 98 have to be two of the most populated books on the graded censuses across the board, I would think. I mean, just crazy amounts of copies on the census for ASM 300 for sure. I know that the census is huge on that. So, um, I'm not a good person to ask on Spider-Man stuff because there's not much Spider-Man stuff that really appeals to me. But I know this guy right here and Nick too are both good people to ask. So if they're telling you a little bit, then I definitely would bank on it for sure. Um, but I think it was a little undervalued for for a while there, and then it just kind of went past being that's about where it should be to what the hell just happened.
Yeah.
But it's definitely I think it's come back to it because what is it hitting now in a 9.8?
I think it was like 4,500, but at one point it was like almost $9,000 for a
Yeah,
9.8. It was just
yeah,
insane.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think it was close to. I think it was in eye distance of 10 grand for a 9.8, which I just thought was incredibly crazy. But yeah, that definitely seems more sensible there around the 4,500 $5,000 mark for sure. Just because you got a mainstay title, a mainstay character, and such a big artist like Todd McFarlane and the iconicness of the cover. So it definitely has a thousand good check marks for it for sure that they would warrant the price that it's at now. 30,000 graded copies of ASM
Wow.
300. Yeah,
That's crazy.
I knew
How
it.
many 9.8s?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was actually like I think 9.8s. I want to say there was like 5 or 6 thousand.
Wow, that is a lot.
Yeah,
So yeah, I would say definitely it's overpriced then. If those are really the numbers, that is a lot.
yeah, I can't remember the exact price, or the exact amount, 35,000 whatever, Chris, you're full of crap.
Maybe he means 3,500. I don't know.
Oh, is it 3,500 copies?
I don't know.
You gotta
Maybe
be
his
careful with Chris Barrett because he likes to just stir up some nonsense with me sometimes, and, so he might actually have meant 35,000. Let me I think I have it saved here. Um, there are too many copies. Yeah, I know. Let's see.
just it goes to show you how popular Venom is becoming from starting as a villain to going on becoming an anti-hero. Like same with Doom. Doom's the same way back in the day, becoming almost like an anti-hero now. People love him.
Yeah, let's see. I know there's. I know I was surprised that there were zero 9.9s of ASM 300. I thought maybe there'd be at least one of those out there. But there wasn't any on there. Uh, yeah, I don't have it saved here, um, on the census, but I think it was north of 5,009 eighths. If I and I could be wrong, but I feel like I looked at it and I thought that was what it was. But all right, guys. Well, we have just circled or shot past the 2 hour mark, so I'm gonna let you guys go and. If you guys haven't already, I dropped his link in the chat. Make sure you guys go check out Laurence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles. And I'll let you tell everybody where all they can find you on all your social media and stuff as well.
Thanks, bud. I really appreciate having me, bud. It was a blast.
Oh yeah, same here, man. Absolutely. So you want to tell everybody your Instagram, anywhere else they can
Yeah,
find you?
sure, absolutely, guys. Like he said, I'm over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles on YouTube. You could check me out on my website at mightycollects.com. Also, I'm on Instagram as Lawrence underscore the underscore MCG on Instagram. If you guys aren't following me there, do me a favor, go ahead and check me out. I always have books for sale. I always have time for questions. I get a ton of DMs from people out there in the community asking me, what I think about books, pricing on books, if something's a better buy than something else. I'm always willing to kind of help anybody out. That's what this community is, just kind of us as collectors helping anybody out. So I'm going to be at New York Comic Con also. If anybody in the Eastern Seaboard that is going to New York Comic Con, I will be there as well. Definitely come up and say hi to me if you're a fan of the channel.
Awesome. Yeah, that's gonna be cool, man. Have you because you're what, New Jersey?
I'm in North Jersey, right outside New York City. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's not too far for you at all then. That's cool, man.
No.
I don't know that I don't know that I'll ever get all the way up there to check that one
Where,
out or not, but it always looks cool.
Hey, you're in Carolinas?
I'm in Georgia.
Oh, Georgia. Okay, so like we were talking about going to the Carolinas on vacation at one point. So if we ever get down there, maybe if you're not too far, maybe we can meet up.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man, for sure. That's where Heroes Comic Con is over in North Carolina, and
Yeah.
yeah, that one. I don't. If you I look into it, it's coming in June next year,
All
and
right. Yeah, maybe.
if you could swing that, man, I'm telling you, as far as just a pure comic book convention, it'll absolutely have you sitting at six. What do they say? 6 to midnight. As soon as you walk in the
Yeah.
door, it was
That's
crazy. I
right.
couldn't believe it.
That's where I want to be, baby. 6 to midnight.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, hope everybody enjoyed the show. Like I said, make sure you guys go check out Lawrence's channel. His channel will be in the description if you're watching on the replay, and it is in the chat right now if you are watching live. See a lot of people saying they enjoyed the show. Glad to hear that from you guys. Make sure that you hit the like button if you enjoyed it. And if you're not subscribed, do that. Don't cost you a thing. Just make sure you get to see more of our content showing up on your YouTube app. And unless we decide, I don't know if we'll put content out this week. Nick's on vacation, so we'll probably just see you guys next week. Nick will be back. And if you were missing all the nonsense and the bull crap, hot takes and all that stuff, I'm sure we'll be back with it this coming Saturday. So for those of you who enjoy that kind of stuff, we will have that ready for you, and hope to see you guys show up for that one. So Lawrence, thanks again, man, and everybody at home. We will see you guys later.
Thanks, bud.